Hurricane Ida, which made landfall in the United States in August 2021, was one of the most powerful and destructive storms of that season. As a Category 4 storm when it hit the Louisiana coast, Hurricane Ida produced fierce winds of up to 150 meters per second, causing severe damage to many areas. The extremely large windstorm with its haunting howling sound is the clearest manifestation of the power of nature that makes people afraid. These winds often come with very high speeds, up to hundreds of kilometers per hour, strong enough to knock down trees, destroy buildings, and cause serious damage to infrastructure. The howling of the storm wind is like a warning from nature, reminding people of the immensity and power of natural disasters. Sometimes, these sounds can be described as ear-piercing, bringing a haunting and frightening feeling, especially when one is directly confronted with the destructive power of a storm. Hurricane Ida caused widespread and severe damage when it made landfall in Louisiana. Winds gusting up to 150 mid-ph ripped roofs off homes, collapsed walls, and shattered windows. Hundreds of families were left without safe shelter and had to be evacuated, leaving neighborhoods devastated and in ruins. Traffic was disrupted as traffic lights were knocked down by the wind, blocking the way for vehicles. Many roads were flooded, eroded, and damaged, making rescue and relief efforts more difficult. Images of abandoned cars in floodwaters and cut-off roads were a clear testament to the devastating power of the storm. The power grid was also severely affected. Power poles were toppled and wires were scattered everywhere, causing widespread power outages. Millions of people were left in the dark, without electricity to heat, cook, and maintain daily activities. Hospitals, rescue centers, and other critical infrastructure also struggled to operate and provide services. Hurricane Ida not only caused severe property damage, but also directly threatened the lives and safety of people. In response to this urgent situation, authorities quickly organized the relocation of affected families to safe places. A series of temporary evacuation centers were set up in less affected areas, providing people with shelter, food, drinking water, and other essentials. Rescue teams and military forces were mobilized to the maximum. They worked tirelessly, moving from house to evacuate trapped people from the danger zone. In the fierce storm winds and harsh weather conditions, rescue workers faced many difficulties and dangers, but they were determined to protect and help the community. Authorities have also prepared emergency response plans. They have set up mobile medical stations to treat emergencies, ensured backup power supply to hospitals and rescue centers, and coordinated relief resources from neighboring areas. Early warning and communication systems have also been strengthened to update the situation and guide people to take timely safety measures. When Hurricane Ida passed through, it left behind a landscape of devastation and devastation. Houses collapsed, trees were uprooted, and things were strewn across the streets, creating a terrifying picture of devastation. Roofs were ripped off, walls were broken, power lines were down, and traffic lights were knocked down, paralyzing traffic. In such a difficult situation, the authorities and the people quickly joined hands to overcome the consequences. Along with support from the government, the people also voluntarily participated in the reconstruction work. They helped each other repair their houses, rebuild collapsed houses, and support each other in stabilizing their lives. Relief organizations also came to the scene, distributing food, water, and necessities, ensuring that no one was left behind. The tireless efforts of everyone have played an important role in restoring the community after the disaster. Solidarity and mutual support have helped people overcome difficulties, gradually rebuild their lives, bringing hope and belief in a brighter future. Hurricane Dorian, which struck in 2019, was one of the most powerful storms ever recorded in the Atlantic Ocean. Originating as a tropical depression in late August, Dorian rapidly intensified and reached hurricane strength as it approached the Bahamas. Dorian reached its peak with sustained winds of 295 km/h, 185 mph, equivalent to a Category 5 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson scale. On September 1, 2019, Dorian made landfall on the Abaco Islands of the Bahamas, followed by Grand Bahama Island. With tremendous force, Dorian moved slowly, almost stalling over Grand Bahama for nearly 2 days, causing unprecedented damage. In the Bahamas, Dorian left a devastating scene. Thousands of homes were completely destroyed or severely damaged. Many buildings had their roofs blown off, collapsed, and trees were uprooted. Infrastructure was devastated, including schools, hospitals, and ports. Roads were flooded and destroyed, completely disrupting transportation and rescue efforts. Dorian also caused severe flooding, with water levels rising as high as 7 meters, 23 feet in some areas, sweeping away everything in its path. Many residents were trapped on their rooftops waiting for relief. In total, at least 70 people were killed and hundreds were missing, although the actual number could be much higher due to the length of the missing and the difficulty of the rescue effort. After devastating the Bahamas, Dorian moved north along the southeastern coast of the United States. Despite weakening, the storm brought strong winds, heavy rains, and flooding to states such as Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. Hundreds of thousands of people were evacuated and many flights were canceled. Damage to the electrical grid led to widespread power outages. Dorian then continued its northward path, affecting coastal areas of Canada, particularly Nova Scotia, where it continued to pack strong winds and heavy rains, causing severe damage. Trees were snapped, disrupting transportation and cutting off power to thousands of homes. Many areas were flooded and infrastructure was severely damaged. Authorities in Nova Scotia and surrounding areas quickly deployed emergency response measures, including repairing power grids, clearing down trees, and restoring traffic. Although the storm weakened as it reached Canada, its aftermath was still evident, highlighting the devastation that hurricanes can cause over large areas. When Hurricane Dorian hit the Atlantic, it turned the seas into a nightmare for ships. Waves hundreds of feet high crashed into the sea like giant walls of water, rising and rising, creating a constant wave of fierceness. Large ships, normally designed to withstand harsh sea conditions, were dwarfed by the force of the storm. Ships bobbed violently on the surface of the sea, swaying constantly with each wave, like wooden dolls being swept away by nature's fury. Waves crashed heavily against the ship's side, sending seawater flooding onto the deck, sweeping away everything in their path. The violent crashing and crashing of the waves, coupled with the terrifying howling of the wind, created a terrifying sound in the storm. Equipment and cargo on board were pushed and spilled out, while the crew fought tirelessly to maintain the stability of the ship and save their lives. The relentless waves made it extremely difficult and dangerous to control and maintain the ship. As the storm passed, the scene in the affected areas was one of devastation and heartbreak. Residents in the area faced an emergency. They banded together to tackle the aftermath, clearing debris, repairing homes and infrastructure. Removing damaged items, clearing debris, and cleaning flooded areas became top priorities. Relief organizations and governments also stepped in to provide assistance, providing food, water, and essential supplies. While recovery efforts continue, the devastation and massive damage remain a painful reminder of the destructive power of nature and the need for preparedness and response.